Welcome to Laughter for All. It's the podcast with Comedian Nazareth.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth, and thank you for joining me. This is episode 167, and so I really appreciate you guys are following the show for that long, and it's just been great. Um, let's see what's going on. Next Sunday, the 23rd of June of April, we're still in April, 2023. I'm going to be at Next Chapter Church in Oceanside, California. At I think their service starts at 10 a.m. So I'll be there. Also, my new album just dropped. It's called 40 Years in America. I taped it live a few weeks ago in Sacramento, California, before 1,200 screaming women laughing so hard. So I could not pass this opportunity. So we taped it, and it's already live on YouTube, on iTunes. It should be going live on Spotify and Pandora and all the other, iHeartRadio in the next few days or so. But everything, is already the distribution is out, so it's a matter of hours or days it will be on. Anyway, thank you for joining wherever you're hearing. Good news. One place and Light Source is picking up this podcast, as well as many others. We had like 20 countries that been watching and listening to the podcast. So thank you so much. Also, we were number 25 in a few weeks ago. I didn't read after that. I didn't see the analytics, but it was number 25 in stand-up comedy. So really doing very well. So thanks to you people. We have already 108 people joining us. So uh what else is going on? That's it. It's still cold here in Southern California. April 2023, still cold. So my guest, I I met him. I know I met him. I think we were at the Christian Comedy Association retreat together. Once we'll talk about that. But let me introduce him officially. And you know me, I love Canadians. He's Canadian, the nicest people in the world. So here you go. His name is John Hollingsworth. Of course, we call him Jack. He's an award winning syndicated author as well as the founder of the Fidgets Improv Comedy Group based in Canada. With his troupe, he has toured the country 3 times and performed before thousands and thousands of people. Their comedy special, Speak No Evil, has gone, it was up on Amazon Prime worldwide and has gone into syndication around the globe. John lives with his wife and dog Cernia in Ontario, Canada. So please help me welcome my friend Jack Hollingsworth. Hey, Jack,
Hey Naz,
how are
uh,
you?
I'm good. We live in Sarnia. Sarnia is the town we live in
Not the
Ontario.
dog.
The dog's name is Blue.
Blue. Why? Was he sad?
Uh, so when we bought the puppy, there was like 12 of them, and the only way you could tell the puppies apart was they had a different colored collar. And when we chose this one, the breeder said, "Okay, Blue Hollingsworth," connecting the dog and the name. And I said, "That's a great name for the dog. We're going to go with that, Blue Hollingsworth." And
That's
that's
that's that's funny. That's funny. So you live where? You live like kind of the south part, like you're very close to the U.S., right?
I'm in a border city called Sarnia. We're right across the border from Port Huron, Michigan, and about an hour from Detroit, Michigan.
Wow. So there's a big casino that a lot of people go to, and you guys come shopping here in the U.S., right?
We do, and there is a big casino, absolutely.
How is what do you call it? How is the border now? Is it easier, lighter? Are they still worried about pandemics and diseases and all that?
Yeah, so coming into Canada is very easy. Going into America is very difficult until May, sometime in May. we've been told that you guys are gonna ease off on the restrictions. But it's same for the entertainers. If Nazareth wants to come to Canada to get a work visa, I think it's a couple $100, maybe $50, and you're in. I've been working for 5 years to get a U.S. visa to perform in the States and spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and we're still working on it.
Yeah, because we voted on that because we don't want funny people like you guys.
Well,
Like, yeah, you're too good. We don't want to compete. So
once funny Canadians get in there, I mean, you got John Candy, you got Eugene Levy, you got Mike Myers, Lorne Michaels, the head of SNL. He's Canadian. We ruin it for everybody.
yes, and what's his name from The Mask? Uh,
From what?
The Mask and the Dumb and Dumber and
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Yeah, he's Canadian.
He
I
is.
love Canada. Actually, I'm coming to Canada again at in Calgary, Canada, doing
Calgary's
the
beautiful.
event.
Calgary,
Calgary and
Alberta.
Lloydminster.
So Calgary is in a province called Alberta. Alberta is the Texas of Canada.
Exactly. There's a lot of Christians there, so a lot of fan base there. So I go there a lot. And then in August, I'm doing a cruise ship that's going out of Vancouver, Canada,
Oh,
BC, British Columbia.
nice.
Yeah, first time ever doing a cruise. And I couldn't stay more than 5 days on it. I'm like, I can't. They have to drop me off at the air. I don't know. I've never done a cruise. Have you?
I I have never done a cruise. I think our friend John Branyan does quite a few cruises, doesn't he?
Right, but John Brennan is okay being alone with himself. He likes himself.
He likes himself.
Yeah, so
Nazareth, on the other hand, self-loathing, completely self-loathing.
yeah, he's a great guy. I can't be by myself. So, okay, tell me. First of all, let's talk about you're a comedian, but let's talk about your syndicated.
Yeah.
Do you have and you're an author? Oh, what do you write about?
So I used to work at a newspaper
Uh huh.
and had a lot of fun at the newspaper. And the publisher grew to be a very good friend of mine. And he said to me one day, "We're trying to expand our readership in this newspaper. Would you mind writing a humor column once a week?"
Hmm.
So I did. It wasn't very big, 300, 400 words. Garnered quite a large readership. In fact, it got to be the first or second thing that everyone would turn to in the newspaper, which is what you want. You want people to pick up that newspaper.
Yeah.
So I wrote that column probably for 4 or 5 years. And every time I wrote the column, I had a friend build a website, and we'd save that column and put it on the website. Uh, and then it got syndicated across the country in a bunch of newspapers. And then I got a call one day from a publisher who was in LA, and he said, "I've been reading your columns on your website, and I think we can do a book."
Huh.
So we published a book. It was did very well. Won an award, and yeah, it was lots of fun. Lots of
Now,
big adventure.
Now, Jack, let me ask you, what was your discipline like? Because you don't always feel like writing, and we're not always humorous when we write. What was your discipline like? I mean, how did you have?
So my deadline was Sunday night. So Sunday afternoon was usually a terrible, terrible time
Is that
because
when you wrote?
oh, I was absolutely the worst, grumpiest parent. Like, uh, I ruined many a Sunday afternoon. I'll tell you that. But at the time, I had three kids who were all, from babies right up to, we did it for years, so right up to the teenage years, and there was so many things to write about, so many. The worst thing that could happen, like your kids up all night throwing up, as bad as that is, and as tired and exhausted as you are, you're going to get a good story out of it, right?
Right.
So every week there was a story either about communicating with your wife, or raising boys, or raising a little girl, or kids, how they fight, or playing games, or anything like that. And it was mostly, every story was mostly true.
Wow. So, what do you call it? So, when did you find out that you can write humorous or you can be funny? When did you find that out?
That is a great question, Naz. Growing up, we, as a family, I mean, I grew up on a farm in rural Ontario. You know, we didn't have really like a social life. Like, we're a couple miles from town, sort of thing. So whatever whatever entertainment we had to make ourselves. So we watched shows like the Carol Burnett Show, and Tim Conway was a master at creating these characters that he knew he could get all the other actors and actresses to bust up and start laughing. So, once a week, Carol Burnett, but we also watched movies like The Pink Panther,
Yeah.
Inspector Clouseau, a master at physical humor, like amazing. And I would find myself practicing these things. And then in elementary school and high school, I started really getting involved in the drama programs. And whenever there was a big drama program, the teachers would start to come to me and ask me if I was going to be in the drama program. And when I went to university, I went to Trinity Western out in British Columbia.
Oh.
And my first month there, I discovered they had an improv comedy
Hmm.
culture there. I'd never seen improv comedy before. These guys got on the stage, nothing memorized, getting all their characters and accents and story ideas from the audience, spur of the moment. That's so dangerous. It's
It
crazy.
is.
And magically turning that into a scene with a storyline, and making the people laugh. I was absolutely hooked. Uh, so I'm making friends, and I'm attending these improv shows. And a friend of mine that was involved in the improv scene, one, it was a Tuesday night, knocks on my dorm room door, and he says, "What are you doing Friday night?" And I said, "I don't know, nothing." He says, "Good. I signed you up to do a show with us on Friday night." And I was equal parts terrified and excited.
Uh-huh.
And from then on, I mean, you couldn't keep me off the stage. It was an amazing experience.
And how was it the first time? Like he picked you because he kind of sensed you're funny, right?
Yep.
Naturally. And so you went up first time, nervous, of course. And I mean, what happened? Were you good with accents? Were you good with just like right on your feet?
So I had a short list. I had about a half a dozen different characters I could do that I wrote on my hand. So I could do an Elmer Fudd,
Oh,
and I could do Inspector Clouseau, and I could do the old character that Tim Conway does with the white hair that's all spiky and he shuffles around.
yeah.
So was it a great performance? No, but it was a good one. And every performance after that, it just got better and better. But you know, and I teach improv as well, and I tell this to my students: when you get up there on the stage, you're already doing what everyone in the audience can't do.
Hmm.
So even if you think you bomb, you're already light years ahead of everybody else in the room. So you need to give yourself some credit and congratulate yourself. What about you? How did you get started in stand up?
Me? Oh, shoot. I was open mic nights in LA 30 some years ago and just went every night. You went 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, went into, and then started picking up. I got a manager, And then from there, it just, exploded. And then I became a believer. So I started in a whole new market. But it just,
Started all
it
over
started all
again.
over. But let me ask you this, and this is really, thank you for asking. But and by the way, I have the pleasure of spending time and working with Mr. Tim Conway. So, he's a believer. He was a believer. Of course, he's with the
Really?
Lord. Yes, a great guy, humble man, wonderful, wonderful man. Very funny, of course, on stage, off stage, just a normal person that's open, and just really
Yep.
warm. But
The one mistake that Tim Conway made
uh-huh.
is he tried to start his own television show.
Mm,
And I don't think he realized Tim Conway was the spice in Carol Burnett, right?
right,
Just a little bit as a side character, not as a main character, as a side character to come in, spice it up and go, right?
right.
You can't have a meal of just spice. And and I think 3 times he was on Carson saying, I remember the last time he's like, yeah, this is my third try to get my show going. Nobody, I mean, it just didn't work because he was the spice. He wasn't the meal. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I know what you're saying. Yeah, some people that like, on your own, like, okay, I don't want to see, I don't want to see you the whole show, but you were great
Yeah.
at making the other. I watched the Carol Burnett just to see how he's gonna make the other cast laugh, regardless of what he's doing. It's just okay.
Yeah.
He's gonna make. No, you mentioned something. I don't want to miss that. But you were talking like once you get on stage, you're doing better than anybody in the audience, even if you bomb. Now, I can understand how bombing in stand-up comedy, when a comedian bombs, it's like okay, you try the next joke, you try different things, you do this, and might not. What happened when an improv group nothing works that night, or the audience is horrible? How do you handle that?
So it's interesting that you ask that because there's 3 guys in my troupe.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, all three
And
you with you in it. So you're total three or four altogether.
no, no, total
Total
3.
three. Okay.
Yeah. So Dave, great big long beard, physical humor. He's the master at physical humor. Uh, Chris, Chris is amazing with accents
Mm.
and characters. And I'm the random guy. I'm the guy they don't know what I'm gonna do
Oh.
when I get on the stage. I'm unpredictable. And the purpose of improv, when you get on the stage, when I get on the stage, my job is to make sure that Chris and Dave look really good to the audience
Mm.
and to build a scene to a point of resolution. And we make it hard. Like, maybe the scene is uh, Dave has just come back from being lost in the Amazon jungle, and he's telling his brother Chris that he wants to share the inheritance. Except Chris has just proposed to his girlfriend. Like we make a scene this is impossible. How do you get out of that? And then we'll say, what kind of accent should Chris have? What kind of accent should Dave have? Now the audience is invested because they're giving us ideas.
Mm.
Now your question was about bombing, and sometimes the audience doesn't like accents, but man, they sure like physical humor.
Mm.
And sometimes they don't like physical humor, but boy, they sure like the randomness that I bring to the stage. So because there's 3 of us, there's 3 different facets to our
I
performance.
see.
And we've actually done shows where the laughter was really, really muted, really subtle laughter. But afterwards, the audience comes up to us, slapping our backs and telling us what a great performance, when we're thinking, let's just get out of
Don't you
here.
hate
Like
it when that happens? Like, oh, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell your face it was funny because you made me nervous?
why didn't you tell your face that you were enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
We did a show up at a resort, and there's a millionaire who owns 3 different car dealerships, and he hired us to come up for Christmas to entertain his entire staff. It was probably 100 employees.
Mm.
So we get up there, and First of all, it's in a bar. So I always tell my students, you need to control your stage. And this is the mistake we made. We didn't control our stage.
Uh-huh.
It's in a bar. They got a stage set off to the side. They've got a big screen TV
Ah,
pointed and blaring some movie that they're playing. And they've already been serving alcohol for the last hour and a half before we get on.
oh no.
So I said to my boys, I said, guys, all we have to do is we're just going to do our best. That's all we got to do. And then we're going to leave with a check in our hands. So I bet out of 100 possible people in the audience, we might have had 12 or 13
That watched and laughed.
that watched and that were engaged, and we did our best, right? And lesson learned, mental note, next time you tell them, not in a bar, no TVs,
Right.
nothing playing, and we need your the whole audience's attention. And if we could start playing before the alcohol is served, that, my friend, would be amazing.
You know what, Jack? I think, that's a privilege that when you've been doing comedy for a while, or you get to where you're financially not so needy, that you're able to demand that. Like, I will never perform in a place where there's alcohol served. Not because I go, oh, if you drink, you're going to hell. No, it's just because I don't want to deal with drunk people. Why? I paid my dues in the past. I don't do
Yep,
bars because I did enough bars in my life. I don't need to do them anymore. So you're
yep,
right. I mean, the more you control the environment, the more you can do it. Now, you said you're unpredictable on stage, but is that unpredictable to your other two members of the improv group, where they're like, "What is Jack gonna do today?" Is
yeah.
that hard for them? You're making it harder on them, or what?
No, it doesn't make it harder on them. It being unpredictable, you have to be unpredictable in improv in a way that, number one, is going to move your scene forward still, and number two, isn't going to draw all the attention to you to the detriment of everyone else.
Mm.
So once you can learn how to do that, then that unpredictability brings laughter. And that laughter, we're going to convert that into energy and creativity. And the next thing we do is going to be even funnier. We're just going to build on it and build on it and build on
Do
it.
you guys have sometimes in the back of your head like certain lines and certain positions and certain like sketches that even though the audience is giving you something different or new, you still go back to that because you know it works?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So we do a warm up called freeze,
Yeah.
and freeze is where we get a volunteer, typically from the audience, and that person is our mannequin. And there's always different poses that we can put them in that the audience is just going to eat right up. And the great thing about freeze is when we pull that person from the audience, we have the audience's attention because that's one
One
of
of
us,
them. Yeah.
right? Now, let me ask you something. We were talking about pay. Do you remember when you switched from I'm going to do a set just to polish. I know I'm not going to get paid for it. I'm just going to polish my bit, and then that first time it's like I got a check. How much was that check for?
It was cash. It was from the Mooney. Remember the Mooney, Paul Mooney, who was a very famous comedian, used to work with Richard Pryor, and his two
Yep.
sons were doing comedy, and they started a comedy night where right now Jimmy Kimmel shoots his nightly show, and
Okay.
I was still very new at this, like weeks into it or months into it, and they gave me $10. We're talking 1990, and
Okay.
I was like, "Wow, you can get paid for this." It was good. I wasn't a starving comedian. I was doing an accounting job, tax accounting
Yep.
job at the time in the beginning. So I used to tip the waitresses, which so whenever I was on stage, they wouldn't come in front of me and start talking to the customers. But I wasn't. I wasn't into it for the money, but then when I came to the Christian market, where there was nobody doing comedy at the time, I mean, very, very
Yes.
few, and you have to
Yes.
convince the churches that you're not the devil. You know, you can laugh at church. That's when I was full time. I just got married and didn't have any money. So I started doing anything to where, like, hey, can you stand in the middle of the freeway and, at rush hour and make people laugh? Well,
Yes, I
yes,
can.
I can. Anything. And that what made my act stronger. And then I just a few years ago where we got to the point where it's like, okay, you know what? I don't need to do this gig. I don't need to go here. I don't need to do that, which really
Yep.
makes you feel, you feel good about yourself, but sometimes you want to challenge yourself.
Yeah, and I remember having conversations with different people before I really got into the business, saying like, oh, the newsboys,
Mhm.
you know, the newsboys, they've reached that level where they don't want to deal with any old church. They're all arrogant. And now I think, no, no, they're controlling their market. Like, if we always joke about one of the first shows that we did that we got paid for, I told the guy that it was a church youth group that booked us, and I said, tell you what, $50 will entertain for the night. He's like, okay, that's great, that's great. So we get there and we do 60 minutes of improv with all the youth. We're getting them engaged and everyone's laughing. And at the end, he says, okay, so uh, Jack and his friends have done a really good job helping us laugh. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pass the plate around and dig into your pockets, and whatever love offering you think this was worth. So first of all, we said $50, not love offering, and he's gone love offering. And second of all, these are teens, so I think we ended up with like $12 in the plate, and he makes a big deal of like, oh, look at all this money here, dump it in your hands. I said, you know what, you can keep that. Are you sure? Yeah, I am absolutely sure. And from then on, it was, here's the agreement. I need you to sign it. Right, here's mileage and here's the cost of the show and tax and like
Right.
everything. It's just
And people think, wow, how unchristian of you. No, no, no. It has
no.
something to do, they always like blame it on the artist going, why do you ask for money? Why do you ask for this? And they don't think, of the other person who's like has to act in a Christian manner. The pastor himself or the youth pastor have to act in a manner that's like, so you know what, let's save, let's have agreement. I mean, if Jesus was on earth and he wanted to deal with someone, probably they'll be like, okay, whatever you say is truth. It's a handshake is a handshake. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of times they don't keep that. So that's why you have to have an agreement, and you have to sign that agreement with them. And I mean, one time, Jack, I did a youth event, and the youth pastor before the show told his youth group, we're gonna uh, what do you call it, prank Nazareth. So they had those, like farting things, and they had this like, don't laugh at the punchline and laugh at the setup. Like when he tells a joke, before he gets to the finish, start laughing, or get quiet. If he says something funny, just look at him and be quiet and act like.
Wow.
And for the whole show, I was struggling. And then after the show, he goes, you know what? We got you. I'm like, I was like, I'm sorry. I said, you idiot. I flew in here. You had to pay me instead of me doing ministry here. And I was really struggling for 30
Yeah.
minutes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, you have to agree to do an agreement, and you have to talk to them. Now people say, why don't you do free? Yeah, I will do my free events. We do free events
Yep.
when the
Yep.
God calls. You know what? That's women's ministry. Don't take the check, give it back, or do this free event, or do that.
Yep.
But
But the reason we charge is so that we can do free events,
exactly, exactly,
right?
exactly.
Like this is funding that. Yeah, it makes total sense.
But isn't it hard, Jack, for to have two other people that you have to split the check with, and then being in Canada, like the population is much less. How is that? Can someone survive off full time doing this?
Yeah, yeah, we're not at a spot where we're full time right now, but I'm betting within 2 years we'll be full time with it. And yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, if you look at the markets, Christian schools in Canada, a huge market for Christian entertainers.
Huh.
And we've got a secret formula, Naz,
Mm-hmm.
which I can share with you on this private
Yes.
video
Nobody's
podcast.
watching. Don't worry.
Nobody, you have to
No,
promise me
zero
you're not
people
gonna share.
watching. Michelle Van Dusen would not say anything, and your sister
Mich-
Tess Scott is fine. So nobody's watching. No, I'm just kidding.
Michelle Van Dusen is everywhere. I have a feeling that there's 100 Michelle Van Dusens.
There is. The one I like is the one in Tulsa. The other ones I can't stand.
So here's what we do for a fundraiser.
Okay.
We call it the world's most dangerous comedy.
Mm.
All right. So if Nazareth, let's say Nazareth, you're the head of a Christian school,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to hire the Fidgets to come in, and I'll say, okay, we'll come in. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a 60-minute improv show.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want you to do is we want you to get all your students to sell mouse traps for $20 a piece.
Huh.
Okay.
Okay.
So we get there, and we just did this for a school last weekend. We did a regular improv show, and then I said to the person who hired us, how many mouse traps did you sell? 834. All right.
Okay.
She sold them $10 a piece. So that's over $8,000. Then what we did is we took all those mouse traps and we set them on the stage. Then we took our shoes and socks off.
Ouch.
Then we put blindfolds on, and we did our last scene on a stage full of mouse traps. They raised $24,000 in one night through one performance.
Oh my Lord. And how many band-aids did you have to put on your toes after the show?
There was a large amount of band-aids.
Really?
That's fine. That's our sacrifice.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's
But it's exciting, and the great thing is there was people in town that didn't even know there was a Christian school that existed. But when they heard the advertising, hey, improv shows coming to town, and they're gonna walk on a stage of mouse traps, everybody comes. It was almost a full house. Over 300 people paying $25 each to come and watch this, and buying 834 mouse traps. It was a guaranteed moneymaker.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Speaking of mouse traps, okay. How did we meet? Were you at the Christian Comedy Association once or what?
Okay. So here's the story.
Okay.
So I gotta adjust my camera there. So I was working I left the paper. A friend of mine was an internet marketer and said, oh man, you got to come with me. There's money to be made in internet marketing. Okay. So for 2 years I was with him, and things did not go well. Working with friends sometimes is not a good idea. And I really wanted to get into comedy. In Canada, there was no real comedy association. I didn't know. I wanted to keep things clean. I mean, we're a Christian improv group.
Yeah.
One day I come home from work deflated. Tough day at work, all sorts of conflict. My life isn't going anywhere. My wife says to me, Jack, I was researching online. There's actually a Christian Comedy Association.
Huh.
I said, it's probably cheesy. She's like, I don't know. But you know what? There's a meeting in June in Tampa.
Okay, I remember that one.
And she goes, we're going to go to it. So I had no desire I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get my hopes up. She bought the tickets. She arranged everything. Our prayer was, number one, please don't let it be cheesy.
Uh-huh.
Number two, let me meet people who actually know what they're doing. So we arrive, and not cheesy at all, like amazingly organized and friendly. Like, even though comedians are competitors, they're all helping each other out. It was amazing. The first guy I met, I thought he was about 18, and I thought maybe his parents were comedians. It was John Brandon,
Yeah.
who was what? You know, like he was probably
50
45.
or 40 something. Yeah.
So, anyways, we go into this church auditorium. I have my lovely bride on my arm. Everybody turns around and starts staring at us as we go in and sit down. And we're kind of getting stared at a lot. And I said to my wife, does this seem awkward to you? She's like, yeah, are people staring at us? Well, it turns out that Anita Renfrew's husband,
John.
John,
Yeah.
John,
Yeah, John, he looks like you.
we're lookalikes. Everyone thought John Renfrew was attending this Christian conference with another woman. and we were getting the cold shoulder. And then the next day, he shows up and we look at each other, and he goes, I bet yesterday you were in a lot of trouble. I said, that explains it. Now I understand
That's
what
funny.
was going on.
That's funny. That was funny.
But you were the CCA president.
Yeah, back then I was still.
Absolutely. And you know, you had the calm demeanor, and you were organized. I remember we were in a breakout room, and Brent Reed
Oh, yeah.
was one of the speakers, how to handle hecklers and stuff like that. And, you know, just genius stuff. But, oh, and I met Todd Hawkins.
Yes. Yes, Tim Hawkins' brother.
We went out for dinner. There's a bunch of us, and I sat beside Todd Hawkins. I had no idea who he was. And he starts talking to me, you know, how do you market yourself? And, you know, when you're shooting videos, how do you do this? I'm getting all this great advice. And then I said, so do you do stand up? He goes, no, I'm Todd Hawkins. I said, I have no idea who that is. He says, well, you know, Tim Hawkins. Yes, I'm his brother. I'm the guy that
He's the
pulls all the
brain
strings.
before, you know, that put
Yep.
Tim on the map. Yes, Todd.
Yeah. It was amazing. So God showed up. God showed up big time in that situation. And actually, at that time, Michelle Van Dusen,
Yeah.
I believe, was running the front desk, or was an official greeter.
He's always
or
volunteering. Yeah, that's probably.
It's probably because there's free chips.
Yeah, that's just I don't know. I can't. I think she's vegan, but I don't know. But so how did you feel going back? Like, you know, sometimes you attend any conference and you get so energized and fired up. What was the one action you took when you came back to Canada?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's the same thing when you go to any conference. You have a notebook. You have a notebook full of 1,000 different ideas, right?
Right.
And I always say, just pick three things.
Uh-huh.
Pick three things you're going to do. Look through everything, prioritize, pick three things. So, number one, it gave me hope, and hope gives you energy. So, there's Christians that are making money at this.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it. And that very first annual meeting, somebody said, don't quit your day job until you're making as much money in comedy as you're making in your day job. And then you can quit. Because if you quit your day job, there's going to be struggles. And that means your wife is going to have to go get a full-time job.
Right.
And, you know, you're going to have to live in an apartment or a smaller house. Like, you quitting your day job is going to sacrifice everything for your family. That was gold for me. because I felt like, well, maybe I don't have enough faith. Maybe I should quit my day job and jump into this. Maybe the Lord's leading me there. Nope, that is not happening. Just have faith and continue, just take the next step. So what did I do? I started practicing with a mind for performing rather than just going through, all the different sketches that we do. How would this look to an audience? And
Mm.
number two, I really started marketing myself. So my job is as a marketer, and I've worked with our friend Robert G.
He's
Lee,
my
and
comedy partner. Yeah,
yes, I've
we
worked
ride
with
together.
I've worked with a lot of comedians to help them with their marketing,
Oh,
and I never had the idea, well, you're a marketer, maybe you should market yourself. It was like, oh, yeah, I, that makes sense. And so I started marketing myself, and I pick a niche like Christian schools or Baptist churches or pregnancy centers.
mm.
And I would market to that group until we had a good set of shows going. And then I'd pick another niche and go with that. Who do you market to?
Mostly I'm in that stage right now where I'm getting bigger than the churches. So I mean I used to market to mega churches. Right now I'm more putting the ticketed event shows. So we're going to the churches with a different perspective instead, like, what kind of honorarium can you afford to, hey, we want to sell tickets. So that's where I'm
Ah,
at right now. So I'm marketing now to churches who can have a ticketed event that seats 1,000 or more, stuff like that. But let me, so that's a great idea for people who are watching and listening, for marketing. That's a great idea. You don't have to market to the entire Christian market. You don't have to market to the entire, for example, let's say you do, women's event, the entire women's population. Like you said, you have to pick a niche, a group, the smaller the group of people, the more you can control the marketing, right? And you
oh,
and
absolutely.
reaching a small group 6 times is a lot better than reaching a huge group 1 or 2 times. So I mean, you're the
Yeah.
marketer, but I had to learn to become a marketing like my week is divided into different, like, I'll show you something which is really interesting for me, and maybe it helps some people. I have to uh I don't think I've ever showed this to anybody, but I have these sheets of paper and I put on my desk. So when I'm a writer, I stopped everything and I think as a writer. So I'm writing now. I don't think of anything. I think of
Okay.
myself as a writer. Sometimes I'm a creator. I'm trying to create a new program, a new show. Sometimes I
Okay.
am a student of comedy. So I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm watching I'm an agent for Nazareth. So I'm booking. When this sheet is on my desk, I'm booking. That's all I'm caring about is getting bookings and working. Sometimes I'm in public relations. I'm just trying to, find networks and meeting. Sometimes I'm a husband. I will put it on my desk and leave my desk. So
Sometimes.
when I come back to the desk, I'm like, oh no, I'm being a husband, or I'm a father right now, so I can't be doing anything. I have to do work. And sometimes I'm a pastor. I'm preparing a sermon, or I'm studying. Sometimes I'm an athlete. I have to put this on my desk and go work out. And sometimes I'm a Laughter for All executive, which is my ministry for that we do the free events at stadiums and stuff. And the last one,
Okay.
I have a ministry for refugees called Voice of Refugees. So when I'm the chairman of that board, I'm thinking, I'm talking to the staff, I'm talking to my executive director, I'm doing all that. So that's to me keeps me as an ADD person. Like, okay, what am I doing right now? Otherwise, but you're right. You have to market. You have to be a public relations person or you know,
Sure. Now, do you use all those cards every week?
yes. Sometimes
Wow.
sometimes some of them, like, where it doesn't require me, like, as a like some of the as an executive of these two ministries. Sometimes I'm getting to a point where I can trust my executive director to do everything.
Sure.
But as a writer, yeah, every day I have to write. Every day, every week, I have to do at least 3 days of, trying to get more bookings and future bookings. And
Yeah.
it's funny, you're
And
turning this
I
show to
loved
me.
when
I don't want that to happen. This is about you. I'm not the interviewee. I'm the interview.
I know. I love with your accent when you said, I put this sheet on my desk. It didn't sound like you said,
Oh, sheet. Oh, that's the wrong sheet I put on my desk. Okay, let me ask you this. We're talking about Christian schools. What's the state of Christianity now in Canada? Where you at? In not in Calgary, where it's Texas, where
right.
in Ontario.
Uh, so it's actually interesting. We've got a very liberal government,
Hmm.
and I think it's good. And it's good because it's wrong. I mean, they're not doing everything wrong. No one can possibly do everything wrong. They're humans, but a lot of the policies that they're pushing, we as Christians don't agree with. But it's good because instead of Christians fighting each other,
Hmm.
we're actually banding together, getting on our knees, and praying for our government, and praying for our kids, and praying for our culture, and and that's a good thing.
I love
So
that. I love that
yeah,
mentality. I love that attitude. You, okay? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I
I'm just
started it.
So does that hinder your work as far as like there's less church goers or no?
No, no, we've got really really healthy churches. I don't does the United Church, is there a United Church in America, or is that just a Canadian
No,
thing?
I think there's a United Church, United Baptist, United this, United. Yeah.
This is just plain United Church.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It was like three denominations in the 30s and 40s came together to make the United Church,
No.
and 50s, 60s, and 70s they were everywhere. They were like Starbucks. Like every town had a Catholic church and a United Church,
Huh.
and their gospel got really watered down, and now there's so many empty United churches. The buildings are just empty. They're derelict.
Mm.
So you know those the people that went to those churches are either going to gospel preaching churches, or they're just not going to church at all. But for the Bible thumpers, the gospel believing churches, we're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we used to have them, but now we turn them into an airline. I don't know. It's silly. Tell me, Where when did your faith started, your walk with the Lord, and how did it start?
Oh, that's a great question. um, my grandfather and my grandmother uh, started a church in our town that was it was originally a gospel hall, which was a brethren sort of really
Oh
strict.
yeah, I love the brethren. I mean, I love their teaching.
Yep, yep. Uh, and they a bunch of people got together and said, I think we need a Baptist church, and so they started this Baptist church, and a small building. And I remember my grandpa would drive out into the country every Sunday. He had this car was huge, and he would pack it full of kids. I had three siblings, so there's four of us that got in, no seatbelts.
Of course.
And then he would drive through town, street after street, and just pick kids up, like sitting on laps, two and three deep. And we'd get to the church, and all four doors would open, and kids would just stream out of this car into the Sunday school program. And we would always, he and uh, I was named after him. His name was John Healy, and he loved the Lord. And we'd have great talks. And he had this amazing library of reference books, from like even the 1800s. And he would give me books to read and encourage me to memorize scripture and stuff like that. He had a gravelly voice, and he was kind of a big guy, kind of a portly guy, but just a wonderful, loving grandfather. And he was amazing to have in my life. And up until I was about 18, I always thought I was a believer. And there was a movie I watched called Ordinary Guy.
Uh-huh.
It's about this guy who thinks he's a believer, and then an atheist challenges him on some of the things that he believes, and he becomes a believer. And it was that night. It was May. It was the month of May. I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And I accepted Christ and was baptized. And from that point on, that was a real turning point for me. And God has been so faithful to me. I can't even recount the number of stories where it doesn't look good, but somehow God either saves you from a situation or he takes you through a situation. I was talking to Tess.
Your sister, she was on the show.
My
Yeah,
sister.
with how many kids? 8?
8 and counting, I think.
Yeah, there's
I don't
more.
know.
I'm sure she had more since after the show.
It's like coat hangers in the closet, like put 4 or 5 in there. When you open the door, there's like 18 of them. We were talking today, we were on a Facebook Live, and we were talking about how when you think you have a lot of garbage in your life and so much, compost, like so much just really bad stuff, and no one can do anything with that, God says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put that in a composter. And I'm going to make that into fertilizer, and you're going to have the most amazing garden you've ever seen. God is the amazing composter. He's the amazing recycler. He can take crap and turn it into carnations. Right?
Amen.
And so when we're going through something terrible, just in the same way I can take my kid was up all night throwing up, I can turn that into a funny story. God can take whatever terrible situation you're going through, all that crap, he's going to turn into carnations, and you're going to think, only God could do that. That's amazing. And what a blessing to be able to entertain people. I mean, Naz, your job is you get to make people laugh. People that have had a crappy day and they fought with their wife, they're fighting with their kids, and they're frustrated with their job, and they listen to you, and suddenly the sunlight breaks through the clouds and it all doesn't seem so bad anymore. That's because of you.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's what I'm thankful for. I mean, this is something every day I thank God, and I always encourage, like you just said, I encourage others. I'm like, we get to do what we love to do, and we get paid for it, and we get to continually doing it. I mean, some people get to do what they love to do for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. To have a lifetime career, it's a blessing. What is your first prayer when you get on your knees now? What is your first prayer when you talk to God?
So that is a great question, Naz. Right now, I am between jobs. I had a job that I absolutely loved.
In marketing?
Yeah, it was in marketing and business coaching, and that ended kind of by surprise in February. And so my prayer right now is, number one, that I don't grow bitter, and number two, that I don't feel sorry for myself, because both of those things would tell people that I don't believe God's in control, and I know God's in control. So my prayer is that, keep my heart from bitterness, and bitterness can start like a little dandelion root, right?
Yes.
and I don't want to feel sorry for myself. I know, God's in control. He's got this, and I have an amazing wife who is really supportive and is through everything with me. What about you? What's your first prayer?
For my daughter, for my
How old is she?
15. Yeah, I have two other kids that, they're walking with the Lord and all that. So that would be the first prayer once I'm done thanking God. And it's funny, I was listening to this old uh, preacher who was from these, man stories. I mean, that's he lived all his life in those, you know, in Egypt, and he was saying something. He said, the faithful doesn't pray for material stuff anymore because
Hmm.
he got to a point where he trusts trust God will take care of that. For he always says, "Seek you first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." So I started readjusting my prayer from that
Yep.
praying for all these things that shall be added to praying for the what's above. And it's like my kids coming to Christ, my growing in the faith, knowing Him, living for Him, that the ministry will be more fruitful, that many people come to Christ. That again, I would not become better or lazy and stuff and justify it, because sometimes we can justify it as Christians and be perfectly fine with it. And
Yeah.
they have to.
Isn't it isn't it amazing that even even at whatever age we're at, I'm 55. I'm still learning things
Mhm.
about what it means to get close to God, and he still shows me fresh things. When you listen to the guy from Egypt and he says, "Look, seek ye first the kingdom," and you've probably heard that a million times, but suddenly it's like,
Clicks.
click. Oh, wow, that's really really good. And you wish your kids would think that about you, like, dad's really smart.
I don't know. I don't think I want to look that far. I don't know. That's way too much for me to think they would ever think that. But hopefully the other day my son called and he's like, "Dad, you are the best." But then because I reminded him, I said, "Hey, your flight is leaving tomorrow and you're not going. So we need to cancel it today and save you a few $100." He goes, "Oh, that's right. I should cancel it." I'm like, "Yeah, you're leaving tomorrow morning. So you better cancel it." But and
Yeah,
he,
yeah,
and he goes, "You're the best, Dad." I go, "Wow, that is something I've prayed for a while, that they would appreciate their father, or that I'm doing the right thing." Let me
yep.
ask you.
How old's your oldest?
My oldest is 24. My second, she's 22, and uh, my little one is 15. You know.
That's a big gap between 22 and 15.
Yes, it's a big gap, and it's weird. It's a weird gap because when we our middle child was a baby for 7 years, so she's never felt she's a middle child, and the latest one that came in, we really didn't care anymore about raising kids. It was just like, you're here. We've already done a good job with two siblings. You can't be that. Just go with the flow and let's see how it goes. And that's where we're at. Let me ask you this: there's a lot of people are watching and listening, and there's one pastor of a big church actually right now. I know he's watching. How can people get a hold of you to book you, or how can they get your book? How can they get, or if I know some Canadian friends are watching and listening. Hopefully, Brad Mix is watching, and others. How can people get a hold of you and hire you guys?
Brad Mix is the only guy that can switch from being an entertainer to being a manager to driving a pickup truck or a dump truck all day long. And it's the same as, your 18 different cards that you have on your desk.
Yes.
His are manage my YouTube channel, write a movie, drive a dump truck for 17 days in a row. Like, it's everything. So I've got a website, fidgetcomedy.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Fidgetcomedy.com. Okay. It's already out
What did I
there.
tell you? See, that's the one from Tulsa, I think,
Yeah,
that we were talking
that's a
about.
close one.
That's
That's the only one I allow on my. I block the other
uh,
ones.
I've had bad dealings with the other
Yeah,
ones.
me too.
And on Facebook, we've got Fidgets Comedy is on Facebook,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, you can reach out, and you wanna have a fundraiser or just a regular improv show, then we are definitely happy to help you laugh.
Wonderful. And I will share with my Canadian friends about your, improv troupe. Now, your book still in circulation? Still being sold?
That was 2007, so I think it's out of print right now. But the publisher reached out to me last year and said, number one, we want a second book,
Mm,
and number two, you can actually go through your first book and tweak it and market it as new, updated, you know, whatever, because that was the award winner. So you've got some momentum
right,
still on that.
right.
So I don't know if I'm gonna do I don't know if I'm gonna do another book. And basically, it was just a collection of my columns. Like, it was the laziest way to make a book. I just took all the columns I already wrote. I had all our fans vote on whichever ones they liked the best. I put them in the book. So
Jack, I believe that when God allows you to lose your job, He maybe wants you to get serious and really deep into what you love to do, because that eventually will be the best job you'll have financially. And I mean, I went full time when my tax accounting job, they had to lay me off for no reason. They had no reason. I was one of their best employees, and I was celebrating when they told me. And to this day, that controller at the company think I was mocking him. I was not. I mean, that what made me go. I was broke, just got married, and I was laid off. And my wife said, "Go do what you love to do. If we'll struggle, but it'll be worthwhile." And that's what we did.
wow.
So go for it.
It's interesting because I think back even to when I was in, I meet up with friends that I went to elementary school with, and I haven't seen them in 30 years, and they say, you were always the funny one in class. And I never knew that anyone picked up on that. And it seems like too good to be true that you can actually do something you love. Most people have jobs that Sunday night they get a knot in their stomach because they got to go back to work.
Right.
But if I could do it full time, and God's going to bless me with it, then wowzers.
Go for it, man. And in the process, start teaching more improv classes. I mean, you're at schools, you can say, hey, if anybody's interested in improv classes, raise your arm and we'll sign you up. And it's like after school program that you can do until you're too busy to do it anymore. And then
I love
keep writing the book on improv. I mean, for Canadians, improv for Canadians. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jack. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed talking. You're one of those guys that I can talk to forever and just so stick around for 1 minute. Let me say good night to the audience who's
it.
been watching, and well, I'll be right back with you. Well,
Okay.
guys, thank you so much for watching and listening, and it's just a great advice on marketing, great advice on life from great advice as believers. Where you know what, sometimes instead of us complaining about how bad our government is getting, maybe that's a thing God is allowing, that we can unite as believers and get on our knees more often. So that's great. So when I say Jack, and if you're in Canada, if you're in Toronto, and you say, "Hey, I need to have this guy on my team," or or we need to hire his troupe to come and do, improv comedy for our company, for our church, for our school, whatever it is. So reach out to him. Again, it's at fidgetcomedy.com, or on Facebook under the Fidgets Comedy. You can reach out to him and they will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching this Sunday. If you know April 23rd, 2023, if you are in Southern California, south of Orange County, north of San Diego, I'll be speaking at Next Chapter Church in Oceanside. Also, my new album, 40 Years in America, just dropped today. So on YouTube, you can listen to it. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it on, it will be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the others very, very soon. So, thank you for watching. God bless you. Next week, we have a guy who's used to perform with Sinatra and the Mamas and the Papas, the Righteous Brothers, who I performed and toured with, and many others. So he's going to tell us stories from those days when he was performing with those famous artists. All right. So until then, thank you so much for watching and God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends to subscribe to the Laughter for All podcast. And if you want to donate, there's a donate button, like a QR code right here. You can scan it and donate. Do you have to? You don't have to. If you want to, you can do it. We're a nonprofit. And thank you so much. And God bless you. And have a great